Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
Welcome to Money Mentors. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Stewart with my husband, Taylor Stewart, and welcome to May. But we're excited. We had an awesome last week. This past Friday, we hosted one of our First Friday events. And so we do this quarterly. You can find out more information online at matsonfinancial.com. But we hosted a little Cinco de Mayo event and also focused on cybersecurity and fraud protection. I'd like to think that I'm a little bit savvy in that area, but man, there's so many takeaways that I had from that too. So just appreciate Lake Michigan Technology on the IT side of it and Troy from Better Business Bureau for being here to educate our clients. This is something that we like to do to be that outlet, and if you're one of those listeners, you're not a client, you're more than welcome to join us. This is an opportunity to meet with our team, hopefully get educated on something. And we had a really wonderful time, great turnout. And now you just need to mark your calendar for our August First Friday event.
Yes, we got big plans coming up, and thanks so much for all of you for turning out for that. And you can keep up with our events right there online too, matsonfinancial.com. Click on the events page there. And each week we talk about the financial headlines, some of the changes that you need to be aware of too, especially if you're getting ready for retirement. And here's a heads up if you've happened to inherit a retirement account in the last few years. The Wall Street Journal reports the IRS is again postponing a law that was passed back in 2019 that would require you to take money out of those accounts. Now, reading into this, I can understand how someone can be seriously confused about what's required and when. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, and this is something that we talk about quite a lot with clients. If they come in with an inherited account, okay, well, when did you receive that inherited account? Are you grandfathered in, or is it post-Secure Act? So it is pretty interesting here because if you fail to take that money out, there's a 25% penalty. So it's pretty substantial as far as, if you forget or don't take that money out, not only do you still have to, but you're also going to forfeit 25% of it, not to mention pay taxes on it. So let's call it 50%, right? So it's very interesting that it keeps getting pushed back further and further.
So the basic change here, as I understand it, whenever they do decide to start enforcing it, there's like a 10-year window. If you inherit from mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, you've got 10 years to take it. What's the issue with that in your mind as financial planners as you look at that tax picture?
Well, let's say that, your parents were very good at saving and you're an only child, or you've got a sibling, right? And they pass along $1 million of inherited money. If you have to take that out over a 10-year period, let's just assume there's zero growth on it, that's $100,000 of totally taxable income to you. That's essentially you receiving a 1099 for $100,000 on top of all of your working income. And if you're already in that 22-24% tax bracket, well, look out. You might be in the 30% tax bracket now. And not to mention, it may affect things like you've got a kid that's going off to college and we're filling out that FAFSA, and then you inherit this and you have to take that big distribution. Now that qualified money wouldn't go against that FAFSA, but now you are flush with $100,000 of cash, of course, minus taxes, and that may totally affect when it comes to your kids going off to college or other loved ones. So it's a big tax issue is what it is. And that's why we talked so much to our clients about obviously RMDs and doing conversions and keeping that RMD amount lower, which means keeping that qualified account balance lower. And if we were to have passed away with $1 million in Roth money, they still have to take it out over 10 years, but it's not taxable to them, right? So typically what's going to be good for you in your tax plan is also going to be good for the people that's going to inherit that money down the road.
So yeah, more to stay tuned. I mean, they said they extended it throughout the end of this year to see. And I know this case study too talked about, hey, this retired lawyer actually had an IRA that he inherited from his mother who passed away in 2022. And he decided to not take any amount in 2023 because of the IRS delay and has been waiting for those final rules of what to do. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be on the election talk too. Who knows what comes out of all of Washington. But more to come to see about these annual distributions come 2025.
And while we're on the subject of taxes this weekend, there's another important tax deadline that's coming up actually on May 17th. if you did not file a return, say for the 2020 tax year, that big pandemic year, you need to do it by May 17th in order to claim your refund for that year. CPA Kimberly Washington tells ABC News that if you happen to miss that deadline,
you're not able to obtain your tax refund and becomes the property of the IRS, the property of the federal government. So you do have 3 years to claim that refund. After that time, you're no longer able to claim it.
So get this, the IRS actually tells us there is $1 billion out there worth of refunds for that tax year going unclaimed right now. So that's money they're going to get to keep. And more than 34,000 Michigan residents are on their list for having not filed for 2020. I can't believe this either. I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I want my money back, right? So,
absolutely.
So how do we avoid leaving that kind of money on the table? I mean, not just in terms of not filing a tax return, but also knowing what the rules are so we don't get caught up in this tax trap.
Yeah, I think that's important to be educated and have that relationship with a trusted advisory firm, because there's so much that you don't know, and that's okay. You're not in that world, right? I'm not in nursing, and I love my friends who are, but they are speaking in a total different language. Our brains work differently. So you need to make sure that you aren't doing this alone, because how we look at it here at Mattson Financial is that enhanced plan. Yes, we're here to look at the investments and making sure you have income flow that you will not run out of, right? And you won't outlive. But there's so many more layers to what retirement means, from Medicare and the premiums involved, or maybe you're retiring prior to 65 and you need some gap insurance, like that marketplace piece, but also when to take Social Security, taxes around everything, being investments, being you might have taxes with Social Security, and you might have more of an issue with Medicare premiums. So there's a lot to ask. And if you're working with somebody like Mattson Financial, we have CPAs and preferred providers and, accountants and things that will make sure if you don't have somebody that you're plugged into and have a relationship with, we're going to get them involved, because we've got a team here to make sure you have the best retirement plan in place.
And we deal with this with every single client is taxes. And now I'm not a CPA, right?
Don't want to be?
Don't want to be, no. But we deal with this so often. We are very privy and in the know with a lot of this information. But again, at the end of the day, we aren't CPAs. So I'm always going to double check that with either my CPA, one of our preferred providers, or that client's CPA. And a lot of times we're bringing that strategy to the table and then having them dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure that, this does make sense.
Making sure you're definitely filing your taxes.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the top 10 favorite contacts in my phone, saved in favorites, is my accountant, my CPA. And I call him on my personal stuff, but I call him on clients' questions all the time. And that's so important to have that resource. And also knowing that when the tax time is not the time to be doing it, right? They are all so busy filing returns and just grinding it out to get through that deadline. So working on that throughout the course of the year is really going to help you, and also get that information back in a more timely fashion, because you're not doing it when all other couple hundred or thousands of clients are coming at them with the same questions.
And our idea is, you're the client. You don't want to be stressing about all these different contacts and being like, well, I'm going to my CPA and my advisor said this, and them interpreting what that means. And then I'm going back to my advisor, and I'm going to go talk to my estate planning attorney. And this is what my advisor was talking about. These are how the beneficiaries should be set up from the estate. Too confusing. So much can get lost in translation. So that's why we're bringing all of this together for you. You have all these resources, including a Medicare specialist who's a licensed agent. So that way we are the in-between here, keeping you informed and up to date, because those are the resources you should have come retirement. You've worked really hard to get to this point. Foot off the gas now.
Well, and that's the important thing too, is just because we've got our own preferred providers and CPAs we work with doesn't mean we won't work with yours.
Oh, absolutely.
When somebody comes in, they've had a great relationship, one of the first things I'm going to do is get that CPA's contact information and make that introduction, like, hey, I'm working with John and Sue. I just wanted to introduce myself. That way, as things come up in the future, we've already had this break the ice conversation and have a good relationship so we can ask those questions moving forward.
And hopefully add them to our preferred provider list,
Right.
because they
Always
do well
looking
for
to
our
add more.
clients.
There's never enough, right? Never enough CPAs.
No.
Get tax prepared.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Matson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Matson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Matson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.